Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast, where we focus on how authors found success, looking at strategies that have taken them to the top of the bestseller charts, as well as what they've learned from their mistakes. Because being an indie author is more than knowing the latest marketing trend. It's about being innovative and creative and learning from your mistakes.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sara Rosette.
And I'm Jami Albright. And this week on the show, we have
Krystal Shannan.
Yes, we do. And it was a great interview. We talk about writing into the dark, which,
if you don't know what that means, that means like you don't write with an outline. You just kind of maybe have a couple of ideas and then you just go ahead and start writing.
Yes. We were kind of speaking each other's language, she and I.
Yeah. So we talked about that and we covered a lot of like how she took a sabbatical and how she revived her newsletter after that. And, she said one of her biggest regrets was culling her newsletter. So we talked about culling and whether or not you
cull or not to cull.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked about branding, and then she talked about Margie Lawson, who is a writing teacher who I've been at a conference with, and she's amazing. So it was a great interview. I really enjoyed talking to her. Yeah. She's involved with Becca Symes.
Right.
I always put an S on the end. Becca Symes class.
Write Better Faster.
Yes, Write Better Faster.
Yeah. And so she had some insights about that. And it was really good. I really enjoyed talking to her too, because it's not this is a lot of what she learned was how you don't have to follow the rules of writing, write every day and do all this stuff. She kind of has a different approach. And it
question the premise. Yeah.
Yep. Very refreshing. So
it was good. Yeah. It was good. And I don't have any news because we're recording this about 5 minutes after we recorded the last intro, because I'm in Italy as we speak.
That's right.
Or I will be in Italy as we speak. So
hopefully she is seeing great art and eating wonderful food.
Yes. Can't wait.
You are going to come back with so many story ideas, I bet.
I know. Well, story ideas and probably stories of how this hick went to Italy.
I don't know.
Ciao, Bella.
There is something about Italy. That's kind of what kicked off my indie writing career. I went there and I just had so many ideas because I was able to live there because my husband got transferred there for a little while. And so we went and visited for an extended trip and just so many ideas.
Yeah, I know. I'm so thrilled. I'm so excited. Yeah. But so I don't have any news.
Well, my cozy course is still on sale when this comes out. So it'll be at sararosette.com/cozy. And it's a $100 discount right now up until March 11th. And kind of just everything that I wish I had known about writing cozies before it would have helped me write a cozy much easier.
Right.
So that's going on.
I'm still giving the discount, the $100 discount on my consulting services. So if you listen to the podcast, so if you contact me, just tell me you heard about it on the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we should get on with writing into the dark.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. Well, today we're really excited to have Krystal Shannan with us. Hi, Krystal. How are you?
Good. I'm great. How are you guys?
We're great. We're so happy you're here.
Yeah. I'm excited.
I think this is going to be really good. So we're going to read your bio and then we'll get right into the questions.
Awesome.
USA Today bestselling author Krystal Shannan lives in a sprawling ranch-style home with her husband, teenage son, and 2 almost teenage daughters. Her home is full of love and laughter and lots of animals. In fact, the welcome mat warns visitors that it's a zoo inside. Chickens, rabbits, rats, guinea pigs, dogs, and fish.
And hermit crabs now.
Hermit crabs. Wow. Krystal homeschools her 3 children, runs her indie author business, and teaches and coaches author marketing for Becca Symes' Better Faster Academy. So,
that's great. Well, tell us how you got into writing, Krystal.
So I got into writing thanks to a friend a really long time ago, and she writes and went indie and is very successful. And she told me, I told her I'd always been interested in it, and I've been writing since I was a kid. I wrote a couple of books in college, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And she's like, well, you should just self-publish, like I did. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. Okay. And so I entered a contest for a small press. And I won or placed or however that worked. And then they ended up publishing the short story that I gave them. And then they wanted me to write a couple more. And so I wrote a couple more kind of a novella length stories for them. And because I didn't feel confident to just go ahead and do my thing. And needed a little bit of validation that what I was writing was good enough. So I ended up selling them a couple of books. And then after that, I just jumped in with both feet and self-published. I got those books back. I mean, I never really did anything with them, but so yeah, I'm completely indie published. I never went after a traditional contract. I loved having the control. And I have friends who have traditional contracts and are very happy with them. But I don't think that I would be. I thrive being my own boss, and I wasn't willing to give that up. So that's how I got started.
Yeah. That is awesome. Well, so did you start out are you still writing in the same genre you started out in?
Pretty much. So I started with a couple of contemporaries, and a supernaturally, not really a genre, like they're not really in a genre.
As one does.
Yes, this was going to say, been there.
Yeah. And then I very quickly found my foot in paranormal shifters, which is what I absolutely love. I did end up writing some contemporary romances that I adore. I love Marriage of Convenience. And so I'd always had this in my mind. And so I wrote these, billionaire brothers that all had to get married and have a baby to get their inheritance. And they were just super fun romps. They're actually in the same world with my werewolves. Wow. In the same town. So, but they don't know that werewolves exist. But if the readers have read the other series, they will see cameos of people they know are wolves in those books. So that was kind of fun.
That is
cool. But I probably won't. I never say never, but it's unlikely that I will write more contemporary romance. Magic seems to find its way into everything that I do. So I've embraced that is my jam.
Yeah.
Great. That's your lane.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like me and murder. I just can't write.
Yeah.
Somebody dying.
I kill people too, but I don't. But I tell you.
But it's not a mystery what happened.
Yeah, not a mystery. They just get killed.
Yeah,
it's funny.
Well, what is your definition of success?
Oh, my definition of success: being able to pay bills.
Yeah,
my money. Being able to pay for vacations for my family. And the ability to start kind of having a little bit more extra money to invest for retirement. So for me, it's just taking care of my family and having a little bit extra, feeling like I don't have to worry so much.
Yeah.
I would love to have more, and I'm working towards more. But I'm really happy where I am.
That's great.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, all of mine has to do with money. It has nothing to do with recognition, I guess. Like, I didn't hear anything about the books. I was like, yeah, the books sell. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like that's mine too, because I want my books to do well and I want people to love them, but it's, my family is my priority. That's just how it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I do this for my family.
Yeah.
I love the reviews. I love hitting lists. Like, that's all great, but those aren't ever really the goal at the front of the line for me.
Yeah.
No, me either. What do you wish you'd known about writing and craft when you started?
Oh, so many things.
Don't we all?
Don't we all? So I wish that I had known about Margie Lawson when I first started.
Oh, she's great. Yeah.
Yeah. I have learned so much from that woman, and I will continue to learn so much from that woman as the years pass, I'm sure. I love taking her classes. I've been to her immersions multiple times. I will continue, throughout the years to go. And there's always something new that I take in from her. And I feel like my writing just gets better every time. Every time I take a refresher course, every time I do an immersion, there's something else that like settles into place that becomes more natural for the storytelling. It also, I think, and I'm not sure you could have it as a newbie author,
right?
But like, I feel so confident now in my voice of how I tell a story versus when I first started. I remember I was telling the story, but it wasn't like I didn't feel like I had a specific voice yet. And now I feel like I sit down and everything that I write is gonna sound like me.
Yes.
Right. And I don't think I had that at the beginning. I don't think and I don't know that you do. I mean, maybe some people just, bam, they have a voice, but I don't think I did.
Yeah.
So what do you, for those people who don't know who Margie Lawson is and what she does.
Oh, yes.
Tell us. And then also just kind of tell us, besides voice, what else do you get from her classes and her immersions?
Yeah. So it's the Margie Lawson Academy. And I think that's the website. It's Margie Lawson
I
Academy.
Think it is too.
And she has some other teachers that teach some classes too. I have not taken them personally, so I can't speak to that. I really only take classes from Margie. And she teaches psychology of writing, how to show, you always hear the show versus tell. Like, she is the only teacher I've ever found that really actually teaches how to do that. It teaches you how to show.
Yes.
Like people tell you how to not tell, but Margie shows you how to show. And that is like the best. I've never found a teacher that could show me how to do it. And she makes you practice and then show her like a teacher, like, and she's just amazing. The way she understands language. It's how she understands language, her ability to explain language. And she tries and tries and tries until you get it. Like it's like she's watching you and she can see the light bulb go off. So she'll just keep saying it. And then she'll say it a different way. And then she'll be, yep, you got it that time. Okay, good. Yeah. And then she'll move on to the next thing. It's a special magical teaching quality that I honestly have never seen in another professor anywhere. And I call her a professor because I feel like she is.
Right.
She is a professor.
She does. So she does she'll do like workshops. Like when I was in RWA, she came to one of our
she'll travel and do workshops
and did that. But she also used to do, and I don't know if she still is, but the immersion experience where you go and stay with her, or she will go to a hotel and you all stay together and you work together for several days.
I have gotten to go to the mountain 3 times.
Oh, wow.
And do an immersion. And I've done a couple of online immersions since we had the COVID happened. And she's actually adapted really well. And I've done 2 online immersions with her and they were both fantastic.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that's
she's adapted really well to that. She keeps them really small. So there's still only like 4 or 5 of you there. So it works really well.
That's great.
It was super helpful. So I highly recommend that. You do have to take her 3 prerequisites before you get to go to immersion. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Well, that's great. I just wanted people to know, because it is a resource that we haven't talked about before, but it's a great resource.
Yeah. I adore her. She's fantastic.
That's awesome. Well, we will have that link in the show notes for sure to her courses. And then what do you wish you knew about marketing?
Oh, what do I wish I knew about marketing? I mean, I always kind of was interested in it, just from a personal standpoint. I wish that I had developed a brand faster. I feel like if I could have, I don't know that I could have though, because I feel like even my books I didn't know what the brand was for a long time. And I don't know if that's just was me learning about marketing on my own, because I'm self-taught. Right. And I just, if I had talked to a marketer, maybe they would have been able to just tell me, hey, this is it. I look at your stuff. Because I mean, that's what I do for people now. And if I had known to seek out somebody earlier, maybe they could have. But I'm not sure that book marketing was really a thing yet. And so I'm, like with all of my years of experience, because I write, I'm in the field. Right. And so if you're not in the book field, if you're not in the genres and in all of that, I'm not sure that you would market correctly if you just went to a marketer and said, hey, I need a brand. Right. I don't know that they would. I wish I had kind of settled. Like, I know now that I write sexy fantasy fated mates. Like that if I had to shorten it down into that, like I can shorten it down into 4 words now. 4 or 5 words, all very, reader cues. I wish I had known that sooner, just so I could have that stronger flashing road signs for the readers to know, hey, this is what you're going to get from me. Right. But yeah, so that's probably what I wish I had known earlier.
That's great. That's great.
Sometimes like you said, you did, like when you first started, you wrote something that wasn't quite in the, in the lane. And so I think sometimes we kind of have to try a bunch of different things. And then we figure out, okay, this is where I fit the best. Sometimes it just takes time.
Well, and sometimes I think some people don't have one lane either. Like I do actually kind of have a lane, but I definitely think there's writers out there that don't have just one lane. And I think that makes it so much harder for them to find their brand, because there probably is a through line. Like there probably is a through line. I always tell a certain kind of story with certain kinds of people. And there's always kind of that fated mate goal somewhere, somehow built into it. And even with my contemporary books, you will see similarities between the heroes and heroines. Like I write a certain type of story, even though those people have no magic, it's still the same kind of meant to be romance, even though I can't magically say that they were supposed to be together. It's still written like that.
Yeah. It is a lot easier with the 4 words to convey.
It is. It's got my elevator pitch now, man.
There you go.
Ready.
That's right. Me too. Sexy, swoony, hilarious. That's it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. That's so cute.
So what do you wish sorry.
That's okay.
What assumptions did you make at the beginning of your writing career, and looking back, did they turn out to be right or wrong?
Oh, well, I had the pleasure of writing during the unicorn years. And I probably made the assumption that I could do whatever I wanted to do for as long as I wanted to do it and still sell and make money.
Yeah.
That was a wrong assumption. And it kind of made me a little bit lazy in the building of the business part of being an indie. And I wish that I had gotten on some things faster on the business side of being way more organized with my newsletter, being way more organized with whatever social media I was going to do, being way more organized with networking with people and working with other like I just having that experience, it let me just be lazy. It let me not have a business. And I think that being an indie author is, of course, being an author, but you're an entrepreneur, you're running a business. Like it's a business. And there's so much that helps a business run with longevity that had I started all of that background stuff sooner, my newsletter list would be massive. My funnel would, work, like everything would just, if I could have taken advantage of those years when people just followed your work and it was just like discoverability was so organic. Like my business would just look completely different. And I wish that I had seen that in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to look back.
Yeah. One of the things that I console myself with the fact that I didn't publish until 2017, well past the unicorn years, is that I had to start with all of those things either in mind or in place, because you had to do certain things to be able to be seen. And then and it's just gotten more more and more that way. So that's the one consolation I can say, well, at least I can do this. And
it's perfectly doable. I mean, I pretty much took a sabbatical a couple of years ago when my family adopted our two oldest. And so I'm starting from scratch again, as far as where my platform, the momentum, everything, there were no releases, there was no newsletters, like nothing, like I barely did anything. So I'm going through that again and being like, oh man, I wish I had done this, way back when. This would have made, like, everything would have just kind of churned along, even with me not there. And I didn't have those things in place. And I can see now the pieces that I need to have in place to keep things going if I ever have to take another break, if I have to,
Now I have to ask, what are like the essential pieces that you see that you need in place? Because people are going to want to
know. So I definitely did not have a good newsletter funnel in place it just was scattered. Like, a few books would have it going to this landing page, and a few books. I'm not a very organized person, and I accept that about myself. I have a wonderful PA who organizes my life now. And I am blessed to be able to afford to have a PA to help me organize my life. That is why my business was messy. I would do a few things here and have some links here, and I would store links in this notebook and store links in this file, and information would be in multiple places, and I wouldn't remember which one was the most updated place. So then I'd just redo it all again. And then I'd have another copy of it. Like, people, you do not understand the ocean of mess that is in my brain. It is why my business didn't run without me, because I had to be constantly redoing things to keep things going. And that was something I learned as I got older and had been doing this for more years, that I needed to have a very, in my opinion, the more aggressive the newsletter funnel, the better. Because I don't want to pay for people that don't want to be there. But I also want to tell the whole story because I have such a big backlist. Like, I have a lot to show people, and I have a lot to sell people. And I love my readers, and I would be nowhere without them. But as a business, they are my clients. They are my customers. And so customers don't buy anything if you don't offer it to them. And we all know how many emails we get from stores like Kohl's and Target, and, like, they wouldn't send all those emails if they didn't work.
Right. Yeah.
So being a non-communicative business doesn't sell you anything. So I would want that in place. I would work harder, even if I was taking a break from publishing, I would work harder to have more engagement on my backlist, to be sure that I was continually touching all of those people, continually having the organic people coming in from your back matter to subscribe. And then they go into a very aggressive funnel that, my people go through like 20 different emails before they dump out into my regular list. Wow. And they get tagged with this and tagged with that. And every time they do something in an email, they get tagged. And if they do nothing in my email, they also get tagged as being a non-clicking weirdo. So no.
Well, but you need to know about that too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's important.
The thing is that just because they're a non-clicker, which I'm going to raise my hand and say I'm a non-clicker. I follow a bunch of author emails and I never click. I read the email, never click anything. I open my phone, I go to Apple and I'm like, yeah, there it is. I buy from newsletters constantly, never click, never. Because I read most of my stuff on my computer. I'm not going to buy a book on the computer. I buy it on my phone because I read on my phone.
Yeah.
So that's my behavior as a reader. Yeah. So I would be a very frustrated, non-clicking weirdo to everyone who has me on the newsletter list.
But that's important to remember.
So please don't clean me off.
Yeah.
Well, that's why every once in a while I'll send an email and say, hey, it looks like you haven't interacted with my emails in a while. Do you still want to be here? And, that's way to
regrets. So that's one of my biggest regrets actually is culling my list.
Really?
Tell us more about this.
It was a really, really common, like normal accepted, hey, you should cull everybody who hasn't clicked or opened or anything. And it was kind of before I knew a lot more about email software and how emails work and, all of the things in place to keep emails from registering as open or registering as this. And I had a massive list. Even as little as I worked during the unicorn years, I had a massive list, like probably 10 times what I have right now. And I think that the low engagement, some of it was a lie from the software. And I think it's gotten worse. And so I wish that I hadn't culled all those people. I wish that I had just worked toward getting them to engage or getting them to unsubscribe. And that's fine too.
Yeah. So do you not cull anymore? Do you just handle it differently? Okay.
Never. I do not cull anything anymore. And I get 15, 20 unsubscribes every time I send an email, which is perfectly fine with me. Yeah. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'd much rather them unsubscribe. That means they were seeing it.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that's kind of changed, like the thoughts on culling your list, because it used to be like you did it. And I was doing it for a while, like once a year. And lately I haven't done it last couple of years because I thought, I'm kind of like you. I'm like, I'm not sure that these people are.
So because I took a break, and I call it my sabbatical, and I didn't do anything and I barely emailed my people. When I emailed them the first time after I kind of started getting going again, I had an open rate of like barely 20%. And so I would send, a little bit and then I'd send another one and it was still low. The click rate was terrible. The engagement was terrible, but I took that list from that. And now I have open rates closer to 50% and click rates in the teens and 20s sometimes, depending on what's going on. So I took a list that it looked dead. It looked like, we should just start over. I took that list and now even with all the privacy stuff in place, hiding so much data, it's hiding so much data from us. I still took it from that to that in about 9 months.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
So shows it can be done, which is great.
Yeah. Even with all the data being hidden from us now, you can still like Because I look at that and go, well, the numbers are probably better than that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Probably. Yeah.
Yeah. So the numbers are probably better than that.
Yeah.
So my biggest goal of newsletters always is to get people to click. If there is some way I can lure them into clicking in that email, man, that is my number one goal, because that raises my overall deliverability.
Yeah. Yeah. Job is done then. Yeah. Well, this kind of fits in what you've been talking about, kind of fits into this, but is there maybe something else that you made a mistake that it turned out to be a good thing? We're all about like lessons learned and, you know.
I in my writing, I made a huge mistake in one of my series, and I killed a main character.
Ooh. Oh my.
And I will never do that again.
So you learned.
All of my readers just went, oh, okay. I will never do that again. It was definitely a mistake. Yeah. It was the right. Here's where I struggle though. It was the right move for the story I was telling.
Right.
But as a provider of romance literature, it was a mistake.
Yes.
If I was a provider of urban fantasy literature, perhaps it would be okay. But I am a provider of happily ever after. Now, granted, I did not kill him in his own book. I killed him later in a different book. But it was a mistake as a provider of romantic literature.
Yeah.
And I won't do that again.
That's funny because I'm not on Facebook that often, but I was on there the other day and someone had joined a cozy group specifically to complain that a beloved character had been killed off at the end of a series. And I mean, you know, and I thought I can understand, you know, like it was apparently the author says it was like what she wanted to do is the right thing for the story. But, you know, for a cozy reader, that is definitely not what you're signing up for.
Yeah. Yeah. Not in romances either.
Yeah.
You don't really want your people to die. You're like, side characters, maybe I can let go of. But I killed off a hero.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Well, what about the opposite? Have you ever had an idea you thought this is a home run and then it turned out not to be so great?
Yes. When I very first started, I thought I love mythology and Greek gods. And so that's what I wrote first. And nobody liked it.
No.
And I was like, oh, okay. So what's funny
I'm alone.
The books get fantastic reviews, like super high ratings, but like, you know, 5 people have read it.
It's a smaller pool of people, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the people that do find them and do like, they like them, but it's not a majority. It's kind of like one of those things that, well, when I wrote them, that wasn't a thing. Now there's a lot more of like, the mythology and stuff is really popular now. And I'm like, no, I'm not going back to write those books. I'm done. I'm finished. I write something else. And I'm incorporating it into the new series that I'm launching this year. Anyway, a different like spin on it. Yeah. So I'll get to write my mythology stuff anyway. It's just going to be like in an updated new. I will never go back to those other ones because it was a letdown. It was like, you know, I had this really cool story. Incorporated, you know, Greek and nobody. Yeah, it was like
oh, that's so frustrating. Yeah.
I mean, it happens.
Oh no,
it does. You keep going. So, well, what's the biggest mindset change you've had to make during your career?
Ooh, that feels very, I don't know, vague. So, mindset.
Well, tell us about writing intuitively. Maybe that's a big mindset shift for you, because I think we had talked about that earlier.
Well, yeah. So I started off writing by myself. And then about 4 years in, I started writing with a co-author. And we had completely different writing styles. It worked really well for us. We meshed fabulously. She plotted everything. And it was fantastic. And we talked about it, and we would talk about where the story would go, and then she would plot and have all the things, and she knows how to connect like all the dots, and it was fantastic. And I loved getting because we would write, so that I wrote the girls usually and she would write the guys, so we would just flip back and forth on the POV. So I would get my notes from her on and read the chapter that she read, and then I would write the next chapter from the girl's perspective. And it was so much fun, and we gelled, and it just like it made us write so fast because we wanted to read what the other one was writing, and we wanted to get that almost instant feedback. So we wrote super fast. We wrote a bunch of books in a really short amount of time. And it was a blast. And then we kind of changed what we wanted to do. We both were kind of growing as authors, and we weren't sure where we wanted to go. And so we eventually stopped writing together. But after those years of plotting and, having notes and having that feedback, it was really kind of a weird restart for me. And so I tried to plot, and I worked with a couple of people to try to help me plot, because that was how I had been writing books. And she did some stuff with me too, just in between what she was working on. And it just didn't ever feel the same, which was weird. My context is like, this isn't what we have been doing. I don't get this. And it didn't quite feel right. And I would get to the point where I would have things planned, and then the characters would be like, ha ha, we're not doing that. And then the story would change, and I'd be like, well, I like the way the story went, but now my plot that I have over here is completely trash.
Right.
Because I can't use this anymore. So why did I do this? I don't know. Yeah. And so I kind of kept finding myself in that position, and I did more talking with people and more talking with, and just, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna write something and just not know anything. I'm going to talk about it. So like, I'll meet with a coach, and I'll brainstorm, or I'll meet with a friend and I'll brainstorm. And I'm like, okay, I just need you to talk at me. Like, I'm not going to say much. I'm going to be like, can we go a different way? And so I just need people to like talk at me and throw ideas at me so that I can think about them. And then after an hour of that, I was like, okay, good. I'm good. And so I sit down and I start writing the story that I have no idea where it's going to go. And it totally goes a different place than anything that he said on the call with me while we were brainstorming. I was like, oh, well, that's strange, but okay, it worked. It got me writing. And so the more I talked about it, and Becca calls it writing into the dark. And I definitely am a pantser, if you want to use that term. I write super linearly. I cannot move forward except to the next step, which is probably also my deliberative is like, and I know I'm talking in strengths now, sorry. Yeah, so I'm number 1 context and number 3 deliberative. So I have to know everything that's happened from way back so that I know what's going to happen next. So when I sit down to write, I'll usually think about where I need to land. And that's usually what I think in my head is, okay, where do I need to land? Where do I need to get to? And then I always ask, how can I make this worse? and so because I don't
short of killing the hero,
short of murdering people, how can I make this worse is the question I always ask myself before I start a chapter. I'm like, okay, here's what I need to do, but how can I make it worse? How can I make it more? How can I make it more? Because I don't want to be bored either. And I want it to be exciting and have that adrenaline. If I can get it in there, I want to have it. And so that's the question that I usually ask myself now as I'm writing. Can I make this worse? Who can I hurt?
Yeah.
Can I make this worse? But yeah, I write until I can't see it. And then I usually have to take a day and think about it, or I sit and daydream about it. Or I sit and talk to the characters about it. I'm a little bit odd sometimes. And I probably look like a crazy person driving down the road talking. Because I'll have conversations with the characters and ask them things and be like, hey, what if we did this?
Yeah.
Or what would you do if we go here? Or
Wow.
hey, could you be related to this person and we just don't know it yet? And like, I literally will just sit there and talk about things. If I come up with questions, I put them on my board on the wall. So I look like I plot. If you came into my office, you would think that I plotted, because I have this giant whiteboard and it has all these sticky notes and like turning points marked and things marked, and it's color coded and who's in what scene and so I only add sticky notes to that board after I write the chapter.
Oh.
So the sticky notes grow as I write the book.
Oh, okay.
Because I like to be able to sit, and I'll sit and stare at the board, because to me, I can see the shape of the book.
Yeah.
And so I can see, oh, we're going to go down here. Oh, we need to go up, and I think about it like ups and downs and black moments and high moments, like, oh, I haven't had a high moment. So I can see the shape of my story on the board as I go. And that really helps my context see the next piece. Well, where are we going next? Where do they have to go? Wow. I know, I'm really strange.
No, I think that's awesome.
It's fantastic. Yeah. And I mean, I kind of have a loose outline when I start, but I do know that feeling of like, I'm writing along and I'm like, okay, it's about time for such and such to happen, or, and I don't know if that comes with just like reading in your genre a lot and you kind of know the pattern of the
I rarely read in my genre.
Oh, really?
Isn't that weird? Yeah, I rarely read in my genre. I read mostly dark contemporary romance. Or like every once in a while I'll read something that is paranormal. But most of the time I don't. And most of the time I read like Marriage of Convenience, billionaire romance. So I love a good billionaire secretary, hook up. That's my crack. But I'm always looking for that payoff. It's a certain emotional payoff in like each genre has a different emotional payoff. I satisfy my fated mate emotional payoff in my own books. I don't go looking. I feel like that's why I don't read it, is because I get that emotional payoff in my own stories. So I want a different emotional payoff when I read for pleasure. I go look for something else. Right. That's what I call them. Each genre has a different emotional payoff for the reader.
Yeah.
And if you don't give them that emotional payoff, then the readers don't come back.
Yeah. That's exactly correct. Yes. Yeah.
So I was going to ask real quickly about your writing intuitively. Do you write? You write in series, right?
Yes, very much so.
So do you just do that with this? Yeah. Do you do that with a series as well? You don't. Plot. I mean, do you not like think far ahead? Do you just kind of go with the flow for that as well?
So I do have a very 50,000 foot like airplane aerial thought of where this is probably gonna go when I start a series, because like I'm working on a new series I'm going to launch it this fall, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be like 12 books, and some side stuff and bonus stories and things here and there, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be at least 12 books, and I'm pretty sure that I know the evil queen lady. Like, I'm pretty sure I kind of know how it's going to turn out. But lately, as I've been getting closer to the end of book one, I'm wondering if something's going to flip on that. So yes and no. I kind of do have like, oh, we could end here.
Yeah.
That's probably something that also is kind of an into the dark.
Yes.
process as well of like, oh, well, this changed. And I do think through those lines as each book moves forward.
Right.
And if I need to brainstorm about stuff, like I probably will just go talk to a coach and brainstorm and be like, okay, I have this and here's what's happened. And now what?
Yeah. I know. Well, I mean, I'm very much the same. I really love writing into the dark for about the first 25,000 words. And then I get there and go, oh crap, I don't really know if I have a story. I've got a great idea, but not. And then I have to sit down and kind of brainstorm and go, oh, okay. This is the direct, and
And I'm perfectly like, I think once I accepted the fact that I had to take breaks and think about it. Like I had to take breaks and reimagine almost after every chapter. Like sometimes I can get through a couple of chapters without really taking a break. Because I've been known to sit down and write, 10,000 words in a weekend. But it's typically that doesn't happen till I'm closer to the end of the book. Yeah. And then it's so like the end of the book just pours out. You're like, oh my gosh, we're rolling down the mountain now. We can't. But yeah.
Good feeling. Yeah.
At the beginning, although I do have to say, like looking at when I plotted, I always felt like we had to struggle with the middle of the book. Yeah. Like to find where that middle really was and to not be bored. And with the way that I've settled back into writing now, I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel like the middle sags for me, because I feel like I write in what would I call episodes, I think. And so it's just another episode and each episode gets worse. And then I let them, be together and think that everything's okay. And then it gets worse again.
Yeah. All right.
And so I ran my last book through this program, something AI. I can't remember.
Authors
AI. Yeah. Because they were like, oh, it'll show you the shape and whether or not, your book has the right rise and fall and whatever. And I'm like, okay. And this was a book that I didn't plot. I kind of brainstormed a little bit. I got some ideas from some people and then I just wrote it. And so I stuck it in there and the darn thing just goes like this at a pretty even pace. Like the hills were just like, I'm like, okay, good. I feel good about that. I apparently know what an episode should feel like. So I feel pretty confident that I don't have to put my books through this thing anymore.
I know. Yeah. Well, I asked my brainstorming partner, because this book that I'm writing, I was blocked for about 6 months, couldn't write anything. And so I went to 20 books in Vegas and was around people, which helped me get ideas, to spark something, because I'm very extroverted, but I'm also, I just need people. Most of my strengths are, relational kind of things. But anyway, I told my brainstorming group, I don't want to tell you about it. Like I don't want to talk about it because it's so precious that like, it's just this little ember of an idea. And so I didn't tell anybody for a couple of months. And then when I started writing, I did tell them and they gave me a couple of ideas and stuff. But anyway, long story short, I called her, messaged her on Saturday morning and said, can you meet with me? Like I'm stuck. I'm stuck again. And so we met and we talked for a couple of hours and she really helped me. I mean, she gave me some great ideas and stuff. And then Sunday, our group met on Zoom and she said, before we got on, she's like, have you jumped into the story? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
She looked, I could tell she was super disappointed. I was like, I have to think about it. Like, I have to think about how I'm going to take that and make take what I've written and make it fit that and where I'm going to have to go back and change and move forward. I have to think about that before I can just jump in. And I didn't write anything until Monday because I had to kind of get a plan in my head.
Percolate.
Yeah, I do have to let it percolate. Yeah. Well, so we've talked about Write Better Faster on here. We've had Becca on several times. And so our listeners are pretty familiar with that. But
nice.
You are involved with her in the Market Better Faster.
Yes.
Class. Yeah. Can you tell us about that? I haven't taken it yet. I think Sara has, but
I just did.
Yeah. So Market Better Faster is, if you've taken Write Better Faster, the way Write Better Faster is all about finding the process that works for you, with you, then Market Better Faster is very similar in its goal of our goal is to help you find your marketing process. What parts of marketing, because we talk about all the parts of marketing. It's not like you should do this and this and this and this and this. It's here's this plethora buffet of marketing options. What is going to be your better, faster process when it comes to marketing? Because, for me, and I do most of the teaching, like the commenting and stuff back and forth. Like for me, it's about helping people find their potential. Like where can you succeed the best? What small, if you don't really like marketing, which is a problem for a lot of people, they don't like marketing, which is fair. Like not everybody does. But like if you can latch on to a small something, anything that you're like, oh, well, I really do enjoy this. Then that's what, for me as the marketing coach for the BFA, because I don't strengths coach, but I just do marketing and branding and all the things that have to do with selling books, because that's how I measure success. Remember?
Yeah.
So I think that looking to figure out a process, how should I approach marketing? Should I do all the things? How do I pick from all the things? Where so you remember Becca's story about the readers, like the speed readers? I don't know if y'all have heard that before, where they took the group of readers that were average readers and a group of readers that were already really good readers, and they put them through the speed reading class. And the average ones increased by from 100 words a minute to like 300 words a minute. And then the people who were already kind of better, they increased from their 300 words a minute to like 3,000 words a minute. And so it's that potential. And I feel like that's what WBF, the Write Better Faster, does for your writing process. It helps you find your potential. Where are you, the speed reader? Like where is your potential to go from 300 to 3,000?
Right.
And so for Market Better Faster, it's the same thing. You're not going to go from 300 to 3,000 on the whole buffet. Like you can't. It's physically impossible. And if there is a person out there who can do it, they're doing it with a staff behind them. It's not just them. And even then, they must have people that are the 3,000s on their staff.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's what Market Better Faster. It's really not about teaching you how to market. It really is about trying to help you form your process and where should you focus on building. This is how I'm going to market. This is how I have the most potential to succeed within this form of marketing, and giving people the permission to just be like, I don't have to do it all. You don't have to do it all. So that would be the sum of that class.
That's great. Yeah.
And I'm just finishing it up, and I think it's been really good because it just takes everything that you could possibly do. And it just helps you kind of look like that big high level view of like, well, this is beneficial. I could do this, but do I enjoy it? It's like, you kind of have to figure out. So I think it's been really good. So we'll have a link to that. And then we always like to ask people, what do you think the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success has been?
but it's the amalgamation of all the things. The best thing that I have done recently has been to let myself go back to being an intuitive writer and not trying to force myself into plotting.
Right.
And I struggled with that. I struggled with getting back to my process for at least a year. And I wrote some books that I was okay with, but I wasn't really super happy with. And once I finally gave myself the permission to just go back to being a pantser, that really was my personal process. And I wasn't going to write faster using a plot. I wasn't going to write faster, even paying someone to help me write a plot, I tried the whole gamut of thinking, this is what's going to make me more productive. I have to fit myself into this box because this is how I was the most productive 6 years ago.
Right.
But my process and my fastest process is to just let myself be me. And I write into the dark. And when I get stuck, I go brainstorm. If somebody will let me talk to them for, 10 or 15 minutes, and then if they'll talk back at me just about my story for 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, that's usually enough to jog whatever it is loose that was the problem. And then I can see more.
Yes.
And I loved Becca's analogy when we were talking about how I write, and she was like, well, it's your context with a flashlight in the dark, in a cave. And she's like, you have to shine the flashlight, to see the picture. So you're slowly like uncovering it and lighting up the cave with your flashlight.
Yeah.
And she's like, once you can see the whole cave, like, cause I guess, it's like a highlighter. So once I've uncovered it, it stays light. But then you can write, and that I love that analogy, and I always think about that. I'm like, there has to be this dark corner that I haven't uncovered yet.
Yes.
So when I get stuck, I'm always thinking, okay, well, I've got to go poke it with the flashlight. Like this, I got to go figure out what's in that corner that I don't know yet, so that I can write more. And then I can write fast, I can write slow. I mean, there's days I sit down and I struggle to write 500 words. And then there's days like yesterday that was fantastic, where I just like 4,000 words fell out of me one morning. And I was just like, yay, that was great. But I had spent the last couple of days really thinking about a problem that I didn't know how to solve.
Yeah.
Because the chapter before that, a unicorn had showed up. And I wasn't sure what to do with that.
I thought you were going to say it was because you put them in the worst possible position, made everything horrible.
I did.
And then you're kind of stuck.
This character came out of nowhere, and literally the unicorn was like, so what are we going to do? And I was like, I don't know.
That's
I finally
hilarious.
figured out what we're going to do.
There you go. There you go. Well, it's been great having you. This has been so informative, and I've just enjoyed it so much. Tell people where they can find out more about you and more about your books.
Oh, yeah. So KrystalShannan.com is my website. You can type it into Google and misspell it, and it'll still pop up.
Yeah, because it's Krystal with a K.
It is.
And Shannan with an A.
Yes.
All the way through. Yeah.
All the way through, 2 A's. Because I wanted to be first on the bookshelf. So I did that on purpose.
There you go.
But yeah, so I have a website that's got all my stuff. You can find me on Instagram, Krystal Writes 82. That is with a C. And then because I started it before, and it does have Krystal Shannan like on the profile part, but like my actual handle doesn't have the right Krystal.
Okay.
So that's really confusing. I'm on Facebook. I'm mostly active on Instagram, like as a social media though. I like Instagram. Newsletter. Right. I have a newsletter, so you can find that on the website.
That's
All
great.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming and talking to us.
This was fun.
It's been great to talk to you. So we'll have all the links at the website. That's the wishidknownthenpodcast.com. And thanks to Alexa Larberg for editing and producing the podcast, and to Adriel Wiggins for doing the admin. And we'll see everybody next week. Bye.
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 Thanks for listening to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. We hope this episode inspired you, empowered you, and made you laugh a little bit too. If you loved it, tell your friends about it. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a review. We look forward to being with you again next week.